question. So
Okay.
for people who have not met you yet, who is Dr. Stephen Buscema? Is that how you say
Yep.
it?
You
Okay,
said
good.
it correct. Yeah. So I'm a former doctor in occupational therapy. I actually got my degree back in 2018. I was practicing as an occupational therapist, primarily in home care and a skilled nursing facility. And we're only what 2026, so not, about what 8 years later,
hmm
or
hmm
actually technically it'd be 6 years later because I started working with Jamie and became a full-time entrepreneur about 2.5 years ago or so.
Okay.
And I just kind of got burnt out from the 9 to 5 um, work career, and I just kind of wanted to change paths. I still knew I wanted to work with people, and that's where I know we have a few other questions that might touch on this, but that's really where I wanted to make sure I'm still working with people, right? I'm still serving and I'm still helping people. And that to me, as long as I could do that, then I'm feeling fulfilled. So that was, yeah.
That's awesome. Now let me ask you this. Um, what gave you the, I don't know if bravery is the exact right word, but because I know you obviously went to school
Yeah.
to do what you were doing. So what gave you the helped you make that decision that okay, I went to school for this. So I guess most people think they went to school for something and trained for something, and then it's what they do the rest of their life then. Um, so what gave you the I don't know what I'm trying to think of the right word, bravery or
Courage.
enabled you to kind of flip the switch on that and just make that decision that you didn't have to necessarily follow the path that you originally thought.
Yeah, that I seriously love this question. To be honest, it was the word that comes to me is courage, and
Okay.
it was like, well, how did I find the courage to do it? And it didn't come easy. It was
Yeah.
actually very challenging, especially in the very beginning when I was kind of at this crossroads, right? Because I went on a sabbatical from being an OT. I took some time off. There was a time where I was working, almost plus 40 hours a week as an OT. Then I took a whole year off. And I remember myself actually, it was here on this property that we're at right now in Sedona, and I was at the creek, which happens to lie right to my right over here. And I had a lot of time to think and process things, and I think I actually had like a whole year if I really look at the timeline. And I was like, what do I want? Not what is it, what's best for me, or what should I think I want, or what does society want from me? It was more like, what do I want? Like, I get to choose right now. I'm in this like cross path where I'm like, do I want to choose the typical, go back to the 9 to 5, and that's easy. I still have my degree and my license, which is awesome.
Hmm.
Or do I want to take this road that's kind of new to me? And luckily I have Jamie who's been on this path for a very long time. So for me, the transition, believe it or not, was easier because I had her, right? It was something I could plug into her business and help her, serve for her, but also her clients at the time. Now that's our clients.
hmm
And I think it was very it was hard because of family, right? I spent almost $500,000 on a degree, and I'm not even in a decade in the career yet, and I'm wanting to switch. And I think for a lot of people out there, for the listeners that are listening in, if you're doing something right now that isn't, full circle and fully filling up your cup, maybe there's another option out there that can do that. And I believe that there definitely is. A lot of people just don't know what that is. But you have to take the leap, right? You have to do that scary thing, that unknown thing,
Sure.
because a lot of the times when you do something that's scary, you end up growing from it, right? There's a lesson in it. And to answer your question, I guess fully is it's just mainly, you just got to almost take the leap. And at the end of the day, it was terrifying, and it just became easier the more I sat in the seat. It just became more the norm. So,
Sure.
which is cool too. If you look up your name in Google, there's an AI version that actually tells you, it like knows everything about you, especially if you're on social media. And it actually tells people that if they look up my name, that I'm a former OT, now entrepreneur, and it's kind of cool because I was like, wow, it's like my, I'm reading my
The
path.
story
It's
that
kind of,
you wrote.
yeah,
You decided to write that story.
It's great. Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
cool. And it's very accurate actually, which is really impressive. But
very
courage
cool.
is the
Cool.
word that
Very,
I think
yes.
of.
I was thinking, I was trying to think of the right word and yeah, you lived it. So courage. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Thanks for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
Let's see. Um, I don't think I'll ask. Well, we kind of covered that one. So, um, you've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. What separates the ones who succeed from the ones who stay stuck?
This is a great question. Yeah, I work with a lot, and so does Jamie. The number one pattern, I'm very big on patterns, so this question for me is actually, I feel like it's really easy for me to answer because I'm very pattern heavy and I see, the successful ones versus the ones that are still pretty much, doing the work, but they're just not as successful as the other ones.
Hmm.
And it's almost the consistency of their message, right? It's almost like they don't give up because their messaging isn't working or their niche isn't working. They keep going even though they feel like they're talking to themselves at first, because we all are, right? When you're starting
Yeah.
from nothing, you're kind of just talking to yourself, and then eventually you might get that one listener, and then that turns into two and three and then four, and I think for me personally, I think that's really where I I found it to be the most beneficial is just kind of like, looking at the people that, they kept going even on the hard days, even the days that they were talking to themselves. And it's the consistency, yes, but it's not just the consistency, it's the drive that they have and the vision that they have, that they know that their future, they have to start somewhere, and they know that. And it's almost like an understanding that they have, and they're willing to, you know, do the things that it needs to take to get to that next level. So I would say it's definitely a combination of consistency. The mindset is one of the easily the biggest parts of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my main things.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Okay. AI has changed the way that we work and we live.
Yes.
Um, so how do you think people should be using it today, that they're not using it for yet, or just leave it at that? What? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question too. Obviously, you know my background really well. So for me personally, and for us, I should say as a business, how we're using it and how I would recommend other people using it, there's that 80/20 rule, right? It's like that 20% that you do in that day is actually the part that's moving the business, moving the needle per se in everything that you do. And the other 80 is kind of like the noise, right? It's kind of like the mundane of like what people are focusing on when really they should be focusing on the 20% because the 20% is their genius zone and that's what's really going to move the lever. So that's how I look at AI. I look at AI, let AI handle the 80%, right? The DMs, just like the nuances of what you should be doing. It still needs to be done. But AI, as you know, being in the magnetic AI workforce, um, we can have AI agents nowadays, which is crazy. 2026, we have AI agents
Hmm.
specifically doing the 80%. So that's how I feel people should be utilizing AI, especially in today's time, is have AI do the 80%, and then you can primarily focus on the 20%, making the
Sure.
content, doing the things that are going, making the connections, doing things like this, right? This is part of my 20%.
Hmm.
And say yes to the 20% every time. And then when it's the 80%, you're specifically having an AI agent or you're delegating it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, um, I guess what percentage of people do you think are utilizing AI to the best of their advantage right now?
yeah,
I mean, that's a kind of a hard question to
it
pin it down to a percentage, but
Yeah, and obviously it depends in like the countries, of course, but like even just like say the United States, because it'd probably be a little bit more accurate. I would say a lot of people are using AI. Now, as far as the percentage, I would totally be guessing.
sure.
But using it right, I would say a very low percentage.
Yeah.
I would say people are actually hyper focused, like their day to day is just doing AI, but they're not using it in the way that I talked about, where they're not using it to do the 80%. They're doing it to do their 20% and their 80%. They're almost making it like the 100%. I think there's like a category of those kind of people. And then there's also the kind of people that honestly, and and I like to be authentic, so here we are. Is those people that are like, oh, I don't want AI, like I'm anti-AI. It's like the same people. It's like literally the same people that weren't like, oh, I'm not about technology, right? In the late 1900s or the early 2000s when they're like, oh, when Wi-Fi came out, they're like, no, I'm anti-internet, anti this. And to be honest with you, there's a place for that, and I respect those people,
Mhm.
but I'm all about innovation, and at the same time, you could still be authentic with AI. So whatever things that you have with AI, you can still use it in your livelihood. So that's like something that I've been seeing, especially in our own some of our own community members that have left in magnetic memberships. They're like, oh, I don't want anything to do with AI. Well, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Um, but it's here whether you like it or not. So
Sure.
um, that's just the reality of it.
Sure. Yeah, I like to sort of think of it like I have a lawnmower, so why would I go out and clip my lawn with a scissors, right?
Yeah.
Use the tools that are available to me.
Exactly. And that I like that you use that word tool because at the end of the day, that's really truly what it is. It's a really sharp tool in your toolbox. Like really
Yeah.
sharp. And
Yeah.
why not utilize it? Why not utilize it? And I do believe that that 20%, if we're going back to that 80/20, that 20% is like, that is essentially like it's you. It's really authentically you. And then the 80% is what you offload to AI. Um, and if you can do that balance, that's where I find people have the most success with AI.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting couple of years coming up, I think.
Yeah, I I can see that.
Yeah. What do you foresee as far as if this was not a question I didn't send you this ahead of time, but as far as like jobs go, people say my husband who works for quality assurance and he's on the computer all day, it I'm assuming the computer can do his job better than he can. Um, where do you see that going as far as people being not needed in their current job positions?
Yeah, this is a great question too. I would say it's adapting, right? Like obviously animals for centuries on centuries have been adapting, right? And same as humans, we've very much adapted. And this is something that we have to adapt with the times. I do believe a lot of jobs will be taken, a majority of jobs, especially things that are on the computer. And that's why I say like build your brand now, like really be authentic and be consistent and do all the things you need to be doing and just go really hard because once AI is here, it's not necessarily going away. So we need to almost build that right now. So for your husband, for example, I don't know exactly what he does on the computer, but he would almost need to adapt to almost like him, believe it or not, starting to use AI into what he does. This way, not only can he stay up with the trends and whatnot, but he can be proactive and, the productivity there is, I know from a job perspective, they're very big on productivity, but he can almost now plug in AI for what he's doing. Um, and that's why I think like for us and what we're doing with magnetic AI workforce, it's really being the innovation side of things and helping other entrepreneurs being able to adapt this AI, not to make AI their everything, but
Right.
you plug in AI as a tool in aspects of their business so they can stay up to date in all these things that are moving so fast in the world that we live in.
Yeah. No, for me, I mean, it's just amazing that I can
Yeah.
decide a couple weeks ago that I want to do a podcast
Yeah.
for the reason being that I enjoy this, right? The conversation back and forth.
Yes.
However, the barrier to that previously for anyone who wanted to enjoy a conversation and then maybe put it on the internet to benefit other people, perhaps, um, you know, now I can just hand it over to Claude, who I'm getting to know
Hmm.
because of you guys, and
Yeah.
then just do some prompting, some smart prompting, so that Claude can help me with the other steps, so that that's not a bottleneck to getting this conversation to people that hopefully could benefit from hearing it. So
Yeah.
it's
That
great.
And honestly, like Stacey, just I want to tell you too, what you're doing with the podcasting space, that's exactly in alignment of what I'm talking about too, is like you're getting yourself out there. And I know I'm excited to talk to you about that in a little bit as well. But you're getting your authenticness out there, you're interviewing people, and that is like the innovation that I'm talking about. You're staying ahead of it. Because right now building your own personal brands is really important.
Yeah, and I think money is a tool too, right? I think initially when I started wanting to do a business,
Yeah.
it was to make money. And now I'm realizing that actually I need to find something that I love doing,
Mm.
and then the money will hopefully be a byproduct of it in some way. So, and I think that's what kind of you did when you switched
Exactly.
lanes.
Yeah, and that's exactly, I think, to kind of reiterate what the kind of like almost like I think it was the first or second question you asked
Hmm.
was, I was giving up a decent amount, right? I mean, as an OT, I made well over six figures. Now I'm not a medical doctor, an MD, but with a doctorate, you're able to be in a very different tax bracket. And I was making good money, so that was also the fear and the courage that we talked about. Is like I have to almost put myself in a lower place so I can be authentically me and find my place again. And then this way I can rise up again, but in a different way, as almost a different person and serving, honestly, a different genre. I'm serving way different people that used to primarily work with geriatrics, getting mobility, doing their ADLs, their activities of daily living, where
Okay.
now I'm primarily helping businesses with traffic and engagement. And it's just at the end of the day, I'm serving people, and that to me is full
Yeah.
circle. I feel
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Yes. Definitely found a way to serve people in a different way. So, and I can see, I mean, you've got a smile on your face. You're
Yeah.
out by your creek in the woods. So,
Yeah.
so it looks like to me that you've made some pretty good choices,
Yeah.
which leads me to, let's see. Um, if someone listening wants to create a life that they genuinely love, what is a decision that they could make today?
Hmm. Yeah, I would just start with a pen and paper. I'm like I love the new school stuff, but I also love my old school stuff as well. Just breaking
I
out a
love
pen and
it.
paper
Yes.
and just getting really clear on like everything that you love, right? Because everything that you love is something that you can actually make and fulfill your whole entire day with. Believe it or not, right? I think we're told, and we're kind of society is told, all right, you got to work a 9 to 5. Then when you're 60 or 65, then you get to retire, and then you have all the money, but then you don't have the youth, and then it's like, what is that? And you're not even guaranteed to live to your 60 or
Yes.
65. So that's a whole nother
Yes.
thing. Um,
Yes.
but to answer your question is it's just getting really clear on what is it that you truly love and what makes you full, right? I can't tell you what makes you full.
Right. Right.
You know what makes you full. I have a 5-year-old son. He doesn't have any worries of finances, obviously, or anything
Hmm.
that we have as we grow up. And he just wants to have fun. He just wants to play with his cars. He wants to go on a hike. He wants to go on a bike ride. And if he could do that every day, he's living. He's happy.
Yeah.
So if obviously now in the reality of things, I'm also in a sense a realist in a way that you need to make money, right? You need to get a paycheck. So for those people that aren't clear, I suggest you that's all you should focus on is getting super clear on everything that you love. And then you might see a lot of similarities, right? You can even
Yes.
use AI and be like, hey, I have this whole list of things I love. What job or what should I be doing to make money knowing this about me? What is a job that I should be doing to make money that I love to do every day, right? And sometimes AI can help you as well, like a tool that we talked about. But it's really just getting super clear. That's 100% the first thing is getting very clear on what it is you love, because if you love it, then you could do it as a job and then you're probably really good at it too, right? So kind of
Yeah.
all collides.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that answer. I love it. And that's like what
Yeah.
my whole brand is about, is trying to convey that to people, is that you don't have to do the same thing tomorrow because that's what you did yesterday and today. Like
Yeah.
you can start fresh right now and decide, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and then figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And to be honest too, like It's funny because I'm not really that old, but I feel like I've lived a lot of different lives, which is weird to say out loud. I'm literally, yeah, it's weird to say. I'm 33 years old, but I've done a lot of things that 33-year-olds haven't done. So I have a lot of experience. I grew up in New York, New Jersey. I threw the javelin at a D1 college. So I was a very much like a sport heavy type of person. And I also lived in 13 different states. And I just have a lot of experience in that way. So, for all your listeners out there, you can quite literally just pack your things and, you change your environment and you could change your life, right? So, like, if you have any addictions or any bad habits and things you want to break, a lot of the times is you just got to change your environment, right?
Mm.
And you let everyone around you that isn't serving you, let them know, like, hey, I'm looking to pursue a whole nother life here because at the end of the day it doesn't matter how old you are, you get to pursue, you get to make that choice, right? And a lot of people don't realize that. They don't realize that they have that choice when they really do. That's important.
Can I ask you one more question before I ask you my last question to
Yeah,
follow
of
up on
course.
that? Let's say, I mean, we do have people generally in our lives. What do you say if you decide, hey, this is what I need to do for me? How does a person sort of convey that to their loved ones? Do you have any ideas for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends, right? If it's obviously like if it's somebody you live with, right, like a spouse, and you're obviously like your life is together, right? That conversation, it's going to be a really big conversation, but I notice a lot of the times if the spouse for this specific example isn't on board with that, then it's almost like, are they really for you? And that's a whole nother thing. But
Yeah,
you really want to have a spouse that backs you up. Even if you're like, hey, honey, I really want to take on, this as a hobby. And then if they're like, no, you shouldn't do that, and just like totally just rejecting you, um, then it's like that's a whole nother conversation you probably want to
sure.
have with your spouse. But it's really just setting your boundaries with them, right? Letting
Mm,
them know. And if you've been not setting your boundaries for years, decades, that's the hardest part is because these patterns and these things have been built for years and decades.
sure.
But having that conversation is very needed and staying strong and
Yes.
almost like planting your feet in the ground and be like, this is what I want, right? But you got to get clear first what you want. Then you got to state what you want and let the world know about it because then they could hold you accountable towards it.
You are very wise for your 33 years. I have to tell you that. I have more life experience in age at least than you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love that you said boundaries and maybe those boundaries need to change and
Yeah.
shift and that's okay. Is yeah.
And
So
and and it comes full circle too with what we talked about a little bit in this episode is essentially. Oh, my Claude just went off. One of my agents is done with a task. Sorry, I got a little distracted. Um, it essentially comes full circle because every time that I personally, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this too, anytime you've done something scary, right? Whether it's to talk on a stage, or maybe you're terrified of flying and you get on a flight on a plane, something from that, there's a lesson, yes, but there's also a growth opportunity for you, right?
sure,
So for you to set your boundaries with somebody that you're like, I have to have the conversation, but I've been putting it off. Time's going by, but your problem is still there, right?
sure.
So it's a matter of courage is the word I think is the whole episode that we're talking about here is you have to
Yeah.
essentially
Yeah.
get the courage and just let it out and let the person know. And if they really love you and care for you, your spouse or your
Mhm.
partner, whoever it is, then they'll understand. And if they don't, then like I talked about before, it's a whole nother question, but they should understand, especially if you've been with them for a while and you live with them. Um, it's just, yeah, being vulnerable with your spouse is extremely important.
Great, awesome. And I love that I watch your videos and I see your son in the background bebopping around and it gives me great joy to see the way that you have set up your life in a way that you're doing exactly what you want to be doing, where you want to be doing it.
Yeah.
So, I just have one more question for you. I was just wondering, is there anything else that we haven't talked about, that you would want to let anybody who is listening to this know?
Yeah. Yeah, I like to kind of go off of what you were kind of asking with your questions is, for any of you guys listening right now, if you feel deep down inside you should be doing something, right, about your life, your finances, your relationships, or whatever it is, I encourage you to do it, right? As long as obviously it's safe and it's not going to get any harm anyone, I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, you need to be all for it as well. And I think that's like what you're going to get when you get a pen and paper and you get really clear on what you want. And if you do have AI, if you're using it or not, I recommend you do that activity. And AI was actually it'll give you the job or the day-to-day thing that you should be doing to make money. And now it's like, okay, well, how do I actually make it happen? There's another thing I want to bring in is find a mentor, find a coach,
Hmm.
find somebody, even if it's, somebody that just has a lot of experience and you don't even have to pay them, whatever it is. Find that person that's going to hold you accountable, but also is going to essentially help you get that result that you're looking for. And that's truly the fast track because you could go and figure it out yourself. It might take 5, 10, 15, 20 years, or you might never figure it out. But if you find somebody that's in the position that you want to be in, that's the fast track to do it. Even though it costs money a lot of the times, it's the way to truly get what you want sooner in life.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I've definitely taken on the investing in myself
yes.
into coaching in order to get further faster. And like you said, there are so many things you could do it on your own, but
Yeah.
if somebody is down the trail ahead of you a little bit of ways and can tell you where the ruts are and, and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's my goal in helping other people realize like, hey, come on, guys, we can do this. We can figure
Yeah.
all this out, what we really want instead of just staying in a job for the next 20 years because that's the path your parents took, say.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Yeah. I resonate. Resonate with
well,
it.
thank you so much for this talk, and everybody should definitely follow you. Should we let them know how they can follow you?
Yeah, you could. So Magnetic Founders is actually our YouTube channel. So if you just
Okay.
type in Magnetic Founders on YouTube, you could find us there. The icon, I believe, yeah, it's myself and then my partner, who Jamie Coleman. That would be probably one of the best place when it comes to like videos, learning information about the things that we teach, is the YouTube side. We love, love, love YouTube. And then, of course, my Instagram, you could find me on my Instagram as well. And that essentially is just the handle itself is Dr. dot and then my last name. So it's Dr. dot Buscema. And that stands for Buscema. So Dr. dot Buscema. And you'll find me there. And I'll most likely be wearing somewhat of a cowboy hat in there. That's my signature hat